Hi, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of JoyaBaking.com. Today we're going to make rice pudding, and this is what it looks like. Rice pudding is a lightly sweetened milk-based pudding. It's full of tender rice and plump raisins, and it's also flavored with ground cinnamon and vanilla. I think it's like the perfect comfort food. So this recipe makes, well, I would say 2 very generous servings or 4 like normal servings. It's up to you. You will need a medium-sized saucepan for this. And to start, we need 2.5 cups of milk, which is 600 milliliters, 600 grams. Now you can use, if you want a really rich and creamy rice pudding, you could use whole milk, like full fat, or you could use like a reduced fat. I'm actually using a 2%, kind of a nice compromise. It's usually what I have in the house. Just pour that in. And then for the rice, I tend to use white rice, either a long grain or a short grain rice. Today I'm using short grain, 1/3 cup, 65 grams, short grain rice. The difference between short and long grain, I think the long grain is like a little more chewier in taste, but both are really good, whatever you have. You can experiment with other types of rice. The only difference may be in the cooking time. Other than that, I'm trying. And then just a pinch of salt, 1/8 teaspoon. Stir that. I know that seems like a lot of milk to rice, but you got to think about the fact that the rice will absorb the milk, and then the milk kind of reduces. And then we do want like a pudding. We don't want like a solid, like when you do cooked rice. So just stir that. Now I'm going to put this over medium-high heat. I want to bring it up just until like around the edges, just to a boil. But you have to be careful with milk, because if you bring it up to a full boil, if you've ever had that happen, which I have, you're not watching it, it will foam right up and it will go over the sides of your pot if you're not careful. So watch it carefully until it just comes up, starts to bubble. And then we're going to turn it down and we're going to simmer it. Okay, so it's been about 20 minutes. It's looking good. But you have to taste it. That's the only way you're going to know if your rice is at the right consistency. Yeah. You want it tender. You don't want it mushy. You want it tender. I like it with just a little bit of a chew to it. So that was about 20 minutes. But that can depend on, like I said, the temperature of your simmer. Could be a little less, could be a little more, but nice and tender, or al dente. At that point, you want to take it off the heat. So, as you can see, there's still a lot of liquid to rice. So now what we're going to do is add some sugar. So really, you can vary this to your own, how sweet you want your rice pudding to be. For this, I like about 1/4 cup, 50 grams of granulated white sugar. And I do like ground cinnamon in my rice pudding. It's how my mom made it. You kind of get where that's the flavor you remember from childhood. If you don't like ground cinnamon in your rice pudding, you can just leave it out. But I'm using 1/4 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. See if I can get that out. And I'm just stirring it into my sugar. And the other thing I like is raisins. You could either use the dark or the golden raisins, or you can leave them out if it's not something you want in your rice pudding. So I'm adding 1/4 cup, 35 grams. I'm using the dark raisins today. So I'm going to just put my sugar right in there and my raisins. Stir that, and we are going to put it back on the heat. We're going to simmer it maybe like between 5 and 10 minutes. We want to just thicken it up a bit because it's a little too soupy for me. I mean, I like it with a lot of milk, but I want it a little thicker. So 5 to 10 minutes until it's to the thickness you want. Stir it quite often. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes and it's thickened to the way I like it. So I'm going to take it off the heat. Give it a good stir, so I'll just show you. See, it is a lot thicker than what it was before, but it's still nice and loose. So now, I like to flavor my rice pudding with vanilla extract. If you don't want the vanilla flavor, you can just leave it out. You can add somewhere between 1/2 and 1 teaspoon, so 2 to 4 grams of vanilla extract, depending on how strong you want the vanilla flavor. I'm actually using the pure vanilla bean paste. The difference between the paste and the extract is the paste is a lot thicker and it contains the little seeds from the vanilla bean. I kind of like that. So either one. Just put that and give it a good stir. So now I'm going to do 2 large servings today, but like I said, 4 normal, 2 large, but you know, I'm hungry, so just pour. You know, some people like to make their vanilla or their rice pudding even thicker and richer tasting. So sometimes you'll see recipes with adding egg yolks or even butter. But you know, I think it's just fine, just like this. I don't do anything else. You could serve it with, if it cools down, you could serve it with some whipped cream, but I don't even think it needs that. Now, 2 things here. If you want your rice pudding to have what they, like a film on top, like a skin they call it, you just let it cool down like that. I really don't like that. Like, this is the same with a lot of puddings. Some people like that skin, some people don't. I don't. So I'm going to cover it with plastic wraps. If you want the film, then don't cover it and just let it cool down out in the air. But I'm going to cover it. So you can serve, this is a little hot. You can have your rice pudding warm, you can let it cool down to room temperature, or you can even have it cold. I'm going to let it cool down just a little, and we'll come back and try a bit. Okay, so I only let it cool down a little because I actually like my rice pudding fairly warm. So let's just take off. So as you can see, it's already thickened up a little because the rice is going to keep absorbing the milk. So this is what it, you know, maybe I let it sit not even 5 minutes. As you can see, it's still pretty soft. Compare that to this one here. I made this yesterday and then stored it overnight. Look how it's really thick. So if you think this is a little too runny for you, then just let it sit and it will thicken up. So let's try some. I could eat this whole bowl. I mean, I like it for breakfast actually, but you can have it any time of the day. Nights, it's kind of nice. In the cold winter months, perfect. But as you can see, wonderful with the raisins. I mean, like I said, you could add some whipped cream, but I don't think it needs it. And you know I like whipped cream, so it's really good. Lightly flavored with that ground cinnamon, little bit of vanilla. You got the rice, it's nice and tender, soft. Like I said, if you use the long grain rice, it's a little more chewy. If you don't eat it all on the first day, cover it. You can store it in the fridge and it gets like this. Now, if you don't like it that thick, cold, and kind of like just regular rice, what you can do is put it into a larger bowl, add a little more milk, and then put it in your microwave and warm it up, and it'll become more like this. So either way, both ways. You must try this. And until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com.